let's just have a quick sit down about everything that I read in the month of April. So I read 6 books in April. I'm going to talk about 7 in this video, however, because there's one that I honestly don't remember when I read it. When I looked at my Goodreads, I realized I hadn't put it in there at all, so I know I read it this year? My memory of the last month and a half is fucking shot. So I'm just going to talk about it now because I don't know when I'll get another opportunity to discuss it, and I think it's worth recommending to y'all, so yeah. That's all. I'm just going to talk about these in the order I read them, first talking about the one that I don't know when I read it. Genre-wise, I read about half and half YA and middle grade this month with a nonfiction thrown in the middle. Let's just get into it. The book I read at an undetermined time is Magic for Liars by Sarah Gailey. I gave this book 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. It is an adult urban fantasy mystery novel. Basically, the concept is that this is a world where magic does exist. Everything else is pretty much the same. Like, if I recall correctly, it starts in LA. No, it starts in the Bay Area in California. And our main character, Ivy Gamble, is a PI. She knows that magic exists because she has a twin sister who is a magician, but they are estranged and she hasn't seen her in years. So the book really starts when a mysterious woman shows up at Ivy's PI office to hire her to investigate a murder that happened at this magic boarding school, which just happens to be the same magic boarding school where Ivy's twin sister teaches. The story kind of goes on from there, and I don't want to say too much, but I did really enjoy this. The only thing I would say, obviously I gave it 5 stars, so I did really enjoy it. The only thing I would say is there is a content/trigger warning for pretty much very extreme gore in this book. There's a lot of, not a lot, but when it gets like body horror-y, it really goes for it, so it gets super duper graphic. I am not someone who's bothered by that, and even I was kind of like, oh my god, I need to like take a deep breath and like close my eyes for a second. So if that's something you're not about, I probably wouldn't pick this up, but if you're okay with a little bit of gore, then I would definitely recommend this if you're looking for a new like adult urban fantasy kind of book. It's very enjoyable. Now, probably getting into the stuff that I know I read in April. The first book was Written in the Stars by Aisha Saeed. This is a book about a Pakistani American girl who is in a secret relationship with a boy at her high school. She is in love with him. They seem to have a very healthy relationship. I really enjoyed that aspect of this book. But when her parents find out that she's in this relationship, they decide that they're going to spend their summer break in Pakistan so they can get more she can get more in touch with her heritage and kind of in a way repent for going behind their back and being in this relationship that they definitely didn't approve of. And she finds out a month or 2 into their trip that they don't plan to let her come home to America. They plan to marry her off to another boy that they met in Pakistan. And obviously she doesn't want to do this, so the rest of the book is kind of her trying to figure out how to escape this situation. I flew through this book. I read it all in one sitting pretty much, which I did not intend on doing at all. But it was very moving. It was very impactful. To say I enjoyed it is kind of wrong. Like, I enjoyed the characters. I liked the character development, particularly for our main character, but it's just such a tough book. It was very hard to read at times, especially our main character's relationship with her parents and the way it deteriorates pretty much because of their decisions. Yeah, the main character's name is Nyla, and I really loved her. She's very strong, but it was emotional at times. But I would definitely recommend this. I feel like it's a really important story. I think in the author's note in the back, Aisha Saeed talks about how this still happens in real life and the experiences that Nyla has are not a thing of the past, essentially. So yeah, I think this is a really important book. I'm really glad I read it, and I would definitely recommend it if you're looking for, I know like the Asian readathon is next month. This would be a great pick for that especially, but just in general, if you're looking for more kind of diverse stories, I would definitely recommend this one. Then the next book I picked up was considerably well, I wouldn't say lighter, there's a lot of emotions in it, but it was Sanctuary by Corinne Lix. This is a YA sci-fi book. Basically, the concept of this is that Sanctuary is an intergalactic prison for teenagers with superpowers. And our main character, Kinsey, she is the daughter of the warden of Sanctuary, so she lives on Sanctuary along with the other guards and staff there. There's only like 5 of them, I think, who staff the entire prison because it's so technologically advanced that it pretty much runs itself. They're just kind of there in the case of an extreme emergency, and lo and behold, an extreme emergency happens wherein the prisoners in a certain cell block get loose and they happen to capture Kinsey and begin using her to negotiate their freedom. Unfortunately for them, at the same time, an alien life form infiltrates Sanctuary and begins killing everybody indiscriminately, and Kinsey has to kind of learn to get over her feelings towards these prisoners to work together so that they can survive. I really enjoyed this. I realized while I was reading this that I have not read any sci-fi for a very long time, and this definitely like reminded me like that's a genre I really enjoy and should probably look for more of. Yeah, so I gave this 5 stars because I actually stayed up until 4 in the morning reading this accidentally, which was not great, but ultimately I think worth it. My only complaint about this, obviously I gave it 5 stars, really enjoyed it. The only thing I kind of was iffy about in this book is the romance between Kinsey and Cage. I really liked both of them as characters. I thought they were very well written and strong, and I liked their personalities. The only thing I didn't like was that it felt very insta-lovey and a little bit like Stockholm-y when it begins for a variety of reasons. And I'm not even sure like if you could label it Stockholm, because at one point they were both prisoners of the other one. It's very complicated, but also they like went from like not knowing each other, actually like not knowing each other, to hating each other, to making out with each other in the space of like less than 24 hours, which was a lot. So that was the only thing that was kind of like, ugh. Like ultimately I like them together, like I think it would work either way. I just kind of wish that there had been a little bit more development of that relationship before it really like got hot and heavy. But that's the only complaint about this. I'm definitely going to check out the second book, which is called Containment, I believe, and I think there's a third one coming out after that. So I will definitely be keeping up with this series because I did, like I said, really enjoy it. Then we have the only nonfiction book that I read this month, which was Too Late to Say Goodbye by Ann Rule. This is one of Ann Rule's like newest quote-unquote books. I mean, it still came out 13 years ago. But if you don't know, Ann Rule is like the queen of true crime. She got really famous for writing The Stranger Beside Me, which was about Ted Bundy, because she was actually kind of co-workers / friends with him before it came out that he was a terrible serial killer. So yeah, that's where she kind of got her start. This is about a lesser known case wherein Jen Corbin is murdered by her husband, which is not a spoiler because like the husband always did it. Yeah, so she's murdered by him, and when they are investigating him to charge him with this murder, or trying to pin him for this murder, they realize that he had a girlfriend 14 years ago who died mysteriously of what was marked like an undecided cause of death, or like a undecided manner of death, I think they say, rather than like a suicide or homicide. But generally they closed the case as her being a suicide, and so when they realized that he murdered his wife, they were like, we should go back and reinvestigate this. So this novel is like kind of the parallel investigations happening as they look into the murder of his wife and then also the murder of his girlfriend from 14 years ago. Very interesting. I think I gave it 4 stars. I really enjoy Ann Rule's writing. She really does a great job of just like telling the story of the victim. I think she does a great job of not focusing too much on the perpetrator and really trying to give the victims a voice. So I feel like I know Jen and Dolly and like pretty much fuck Bart Corbin. Then we have all the middle grade books that I read this month, the first of which was The Strangers by Margaret Peterson Haddix. This is the first book in the Greystone Secret series. I didn't know anything about this when I picked it up. I actually just pretty much only picked it up because I was trying to order from a local bookstore curbside to support them during this work from home, stay at home kind of situation, and I saw that they had this available for curbside because they had it in stock, and it was on my Goodreads TBR, but I don't know how it got there. Like, I think I was just going through and like adding random middle grades at some point. I don't know. At one point it was interesting to me, so I picked it up. I enjoyed it. Oh, I don't know if I said I gave this 4 stars, but I did. I also gave this 4 stars. This is about 3 siblings, Chess, Emma, and Finn, who are 12, 10, and 8, and they come home from school one day to find their mom watching a news report about 3 kidnapped children in Arizona. They live in Ohio and don't know these children. However, those 3 children, who are also siblings, have the same first and middle names as all of the Greystone children and the same birthdays. And they obviously, like I said, don't know these children, don't know any details about them, but obviously it's a strange coincidence and it makes the children mildly uncomfortable, but their mom kind of loses her shit and the next day tells them that she has to go on a business trip for an undetermined amount of time and leaves them with a family that they don't really know, who have just kind of agreed to watch them for their mother because she's their father is dead, so it's just her. And they come to find out through a series of events that she doesn't ever plan on coming back to protect them for some reason. She's left them a letter that is written entirely in code that they don't know how to solve. And the story kind of takes off from there. It's very enjoyable. It is a sci-fi middle grade, which is fun. I don't want to say exactly why because it's a little bit of a spoiler, but I would definitely recommend reading these. This next book that I read this month was The Deceivers, which is the second book in this series, which I actually just finished yesterday, and I listened to the audiobook of that, which I very much enjoy. I obviously read the physical copy of this, but they're really quick reads. I think the second book was like 7.5 hours long, and they're really fun. They're written from all 3 perspectives of the siblings, and I think Margaret Peterson Haddix does a great job of kind of aging them by their thoughts correctly, if that makes any sense, because there is a big difference between being 12 and being 8, or even being 12 and being 10. And so when you shift into the different perspectives of the children, like, not only do you get the difference because of their obviously different personalities, but like reading from Chess, the 12-year-old, and then switching to a Finn chapter, like the difference in just the way they kind of process the world around them is so clear. It feels so realistic for those age ranges. Obviously it's been a while since I've been those ages, but I felt like it was very accurate, and like Finn, like everything he said just made me want to protect him with like all of my soul. Like, these kids go through it in these 2 books, and he just is still happy-go-lucky and just so positive, and oh, they're really cute and pure, but also like meaningful, and like the relationship these siblings have together and the things they go through just like brings them so much closer together. There's also a little bit of a found family aspect in these, which I really enjoyed, so definitely check these out if any of that sounds appealing to you. I'm definitely going to be keeping up with the series. I think the next one is called The Messengers, and I think it's going to come out, I think, like exactly a year from now, because The Deceivers came out at the very beginning of this month, so check them out if any of that sounds good. The very last book that I read this month was one that I actually just finished this morning, and that is The Stormrunner by J.C. Cervantes. This is the first book in the Stormrunner series, which is one of the series from the Rick Riordan Presents imprint. This is like, I think, my 3rd that I've read from that imprint. I've really enjoyed all of them. I would highly recommend them if you read and enjoyed Percy Jackson, or even if you didn't, if you're just looking for something that's going to bring you joy. I would highly recommend them. I also recommend Arusha, that series specifically, as well as The Dragon Pearl. Both incredible. Super duper good. This is probably, I don't want to say my least favorite out of all of those. It had the weakest beginning, and by beginning I mean literally the beginning of this book, not just in general the beginning of the series, but like the first half of this book I was pretty convinced that I was going to give it 3 stars. I ended up giving it 4 because the second half was very strong. I think what it struggled with in the first half that I haven't seen an issue with in the other two books that I've read from this imprint was that it was trying too hard to replicate Percy Jackson, essentially. It was trying a bit too hard to kind of copy that formula in a way. Like, I really felt the, like, aspects of our main character's name is Zane. The aspects of his personality that were like Percy's were really obvious in the first couple of, like, the probably the first third, and like our female secondary main character Brooks felt a lot like Annabeth and still kind of does. And there were definitely other aspects of this where I was like, yeah, that really feels like very similar, but then in the second half it kind of like completely diverged and made its own path in a way, which I really appreciated. So I would definitely still recommend this. That was just kind of, the first half of this kind of dragged for me because of that. But like I said, the second half more than made up for that. Really enjoyed it. Would highly recommend it as well, especially if you're looking to learn about Mayan mythology. So those are all the books that I've read this month. That's all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure to like and subscribe down below. Chat with me in the comments. Have you read any of these? What did you think of them? Do you have any recommendations based on these and what I enjoyed? Let me know. But yeah, that's all for today. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!